Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of FoolCraft, and this hat that I found makes me feel like a whole new person. I love the glasses. I always pick a different hat for every intro, but not always do I think of a little joke or whatever. I said last episode we were going to be messing around with these guns and playing around with the different ammunition, and then I have been entirely sidetracked by a really cool idea on how to do our auto-crafting, right? You can see all of the molecular assemblers have been disassembled. They are now inside of this box along with all of the recipes, so I can remember the things that we were auto-crafting. And you can see that I've been expanding this area. The room we're in now is slightly bigger, and I've started working on the next room over as well, which is pretty cool. So let's pop into here and just check it out quickly. Pretty much the same thing as all the others. This is where we're going to do our auto-crafting. Now what I want to do is just pop down below quickly and explain something. So the way we were doing auto-crafting before was to leave the full amount of each of these inside of here. Some of them are actually still a little bit low, which I find interesting. They should all be 2.6k. And now what we're going to do is basically farm this in a way which means all of these are going to drop down to 0, which may sound like a bad idea, but we're going to be adding the ones that have just one recipe. So there's actually nothing else that you can use it for, and therefore the argument is pretty good that you might as well just use it all up, right? So we're going to be using crafters, and as always, thank you so much for your feedback on the episodes. I didn't write down the name of who commented, which is something that I should really get in the habit of doing, but I get so excited when we get a good idea that I tend to just rush straight into it. I hopped onto here, I started carving out the space, and enjoying this build theme, by the way. I love it. It's really cool. We're going to lay it out like that. However, I might actually look for a better way of doing this. Already some ideas are coming to mind. We could possibly use Ender.io and have some grids, but here's the idea. When I say grids, what I'm talking about is 3x3 of these crafters. We're going to use an export bus. So this is going to be the system exporting things down here. With 2 capacity cards, we can now export 8 different things at once. We would want to put that on round robin, I believe, so that it would, you know, evenly distribute the different essences. That's where the essences are going to be. Remember, that's what we're crafting. Now, all of those things are going to go down into here, and I believe we can set it up so that it remembers the slot, or when it crafts, it leaves one of each essence in here. So we can have 8 different essences, we can put in sticks, then we can have 8 different recipes over here, and all of that stuff will get outputted to this part, and then we'll have, do we have an import bus? Yes, an import bus on the bottom, which means for one crafter, we shall have 8 different recipes, and that obviously reduces the amount of space it requires 8 times over. And that's just if we use this setup here with AE. You know, it's possible that we could actually be exporting materials into a big old chest that's behind this and importing from it as well, and then just having a grid of Ender.io conduits behind it. Now, I liked this design because it would be pretty easy to set up. We could have, you know, 2 rows of cables going across, but it wouldn't be very space efficient. You know, it would be using up a lot of space. It would follow the similar theme of looking at blocks and seeing the cables above and below, which I really like. Oh, you can also see I haven't exactly finished working with this bit over here, have I? So I'll probably think on that and see where we can go with it. But we're going to be able to add all of these and more pretty easily without having to mess around with patterns and stuff like that. It should be a lot easier to set up is what I'm getting at. One thought has just crossed my mind though. Let's imagine that this is a chest. So if we put a chest back here, we've got our Ender.io conduits interacting with all of this. We need to be able to get, let's see, 9 export buses pointing into here, and that's going to be tricky. We could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if we filled all of those up, there'd be an extra 5 overall as well, because they can do 9 each. You know, I'm doing a lot of talking and explaining. I think it's about time I started building so you can see it in action. So when I record these videos, and that being modded Minecraft, I usually have these heart sink moments where I'm like, oh no, I've overlooked something and I've got to start all over again. And this time it's forced me to look for a solution And I think we have actually found one, which is going to be very cool. Oh, and do I have, let's swap over to our tools. Do I have conduits? I do, just enough probably to do a test. So around the back here, this is the setup we're going to go with. We've got these eye shapes, and the reason that I didn't do grids of 3x3 is because it meant the middle row would rely on us having a different system, that being Ender IO conduits to move items in and out, right? Now that probably would have been pretty cool, but I didn't like the way you couldn't see into the room a little bit, so I decided to remove that, and I think actually it may have looked better to have 3 at the bottom and 3 at the top. But we've gone for these eye shapes. We could always change it later on, but whenever I have these irritating desires for symmetry or particular layouts, I try and resist them now because they usually waste a lot of time, right? For example, seeing this on the end here might make me want to redesign the entire room so you don't have this little thing right here, but then I could just throw in some panels and block it off with something similar to that, or what we did over here. That's the way I try and play this game now. I try and be smart and not get caught up in those things. Anyway, I'm getting deterred here. So this one has been set up, and you can see that I've configured all of the all of the essence from Biomes Aplenty, which are 8 different types, which is very nice because there's 8 different recipes. All of those are getting exported on round robin mode. We may need like a speed upgrade in here at some point, and they're ready to be automatically crafted, which is when I went, uh-oh, we're missing out on power. Oh dear, well how can we fix that? So I started to think about conduit facades and found out about this one, transparent conduit facade. Now I'm praying that this makes the conduit invisible. Did I place it? No, I didn't, because this hasn't changed here. I also realised that I picked out the wrong type of conduit. We're looking for power conduits, which we've got loads of. So maybe we have to place that first and then put this here. Oh no, I've got a feeling this isn't what I thought it was. Because these need power and there's like a lack of connections on any sides because of all the other things. What does this do then? I should have held shift first. Not painted. Oh. Okay, hidden when... Hang on, I'm not going to read that on camera because I'm terrible at doing that. So this right here is a conduit facade made to look like a block. It will connect to a texture, so that's pretty cool. So up the top here we can have one that goes up top and links up to a power source, right? So let's get that out of the way first of all. And now apparently I've got to paint these blocks as well, which is where I think we might run into a little bit of a problem. I think we've been saved, people. I think we've been saved by the quartz glass. So I read what it said on the shift bit. The bottom bit is the most important. Hides the conduit we've painted with a non-solid block. Well, that means glass. And we messed around with glass last time. I played around with a bunch of different blocks over here. And after I did that, I then sort of looked over here and went, that quartz glass is really nice. There's a lot less of the streaks and it's got a cool border. We could have used that, so I'm glad I remembered it this time. We could put our regular quartz glass in those spaces, and then... now it didn't connect... Well, hang on, it sort of did actually connect the texture. Just not to the block that... Wait, no. Is it because I'm holding it that it looks strange? Okay, so we're going to get these little lines on the outside. That's not so great. Maybe we painted it to the wrong block, but it at least removes the conduit. And I'd be happy with that because that's a little bit nicer to look at. So the connected texture isn't quite working here. Maybe that means we need a different type of transparent block. That is much better. Decided to use a glass from Ender IO, and actually there is a little bit of like a texture problem on the inside there, but I ain't going to complain. Now what happens when we put the actual block here? It connects with it just fine as well. Oh, and isn't that good? Do you know what that means? We can get power to all of this without seeing it. Thank goodness for that solution. I was starting to worry there. Now, the border that it adds is so close to the colour of that, it kind of just makes it look a little thicker and almost like it's not there. It's like the perfect glass for this. Anyway, you've now seen all of the parts that go into this, right? So it's time that we finish this project and get a whole bunch of stuff autocrafting. So I've just got done making a whole bunch of compacting drawers over here. And then I've been putting in upgrades. These things are fully upgraded. They're also locked and quantified, and they are ready for items. And you know what we're going to be putting down here. Now, I showed you these blocks in the last episode, right? They can be crafted into blocks and back again, which means that we can put them in here and we can store crazy amounts of them. And let's just go ahead and do that. There's 8 in total, so we're going to have 5 at the bottom and then 3 above. and I looked at how much is in the system. For some reason, we have a full complement of amber. Actually, as soon as I said it, I know why. It's because the molecular assemblers, I started to do them in alphabetical order, right? And A being the first one. Have I missed something here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, it's the amber one. Yeah, literally the one I'm talking about I haven't put in. There we go. So they are the 8 different blocks from this mod, Biomes of Plenty. And now what we got to do is go up above and get this thing here working a little bit faster. I can't actually open it from that side. Now the power has been hooked up, it has been crafting, but it is going a little bit slow, as you can see, and I believe the way to speed this up is to put in some speed upgrades. So the acceleration card here should mean we see these things fill up very quickly. And that means that these are now filled up because this thing works very fast. And then on this side, we are literally going to ram it full of these things. That might actually be overkill. Aha, it's definitely overkill. And look at that. Wow, it's probably doing all of that crafting really efficiently now. What happens if we take one of those out? It still seems to be going full pelt. 2 of them seems to be keeping up fine. And then 1 less, surely we'll see a difference. There you go. So that seems to be the threshold. Each of these are going to need 2 each. So that's every import bus. If there is 8 recipes in here, it's going to need at least 2. And you can see it doing some catch up there. Right, that is awesome. So now, if we go down below again, we'll see this thing slowly filling up, right? Apparently we've got no amber coming through. I actually think this is a priority thing now because amber is being stored somewhere else. Yeah, look at this. There you go. So I need to remove it from there, which is going to be kind of difficult because I can't just do this, can I? That would be a bad way of doing it. But if I set the priority of this one slightly higher, maybe I could be tempted to sit here and click it all from one inventory to the other. Probably take a couple of minutes, right? If we go back up to the top though and check out our interface and we do @Biomes of Plenty like this, we should now see the building blocks. There they are, awesome. And they are some new textures for us to work with in the future. And we're going to do a little bit of building later on in this episode. Some really cool building actually. And I think these textures here, one of them will be perfect for the build. So now we're adding in all of the recipes for stuff we were already crafting. You can see this is going just fine. However, I did actually need a 3rd one on the import bus. So it probably depends on what sort of recipes you got going on. For example, the basalt makes 16 per recipe, right? So if you had a load of those crammed into one of these, then you'd probably need 4 upgrades on over here. So that's something to consider. And also, I was just going to go and get rid of the ones that I just did. But because I'm doing them in alphabetical order, it made me think of these options down the side here. So these will sort the chest for you, which is kind of cool. And I believe that sorts it. Oh no, that's just default. Oh well, I think it tries to do it alphabetically anyway, right? Because we got some of our A's and our B's down here. But even then, it's not quite in order. These are the ones that we've just crafted. Maybe it isn't actually stored alphabetical at all. But anyway, I'm going to rip those out of there once I've done them, and that will help me keep on top of what we need to do. Superb! Another system set up. It is so satisfying how this thing works. A lot better than the molecular assembler setup that we had before. I mean, it looks nicer. It's kind of cool the way you set it up. It's faster. And now we can actually start to see some of the effects of the way that we're doing it. If we go down to here, we should see the occasional thing, look at that, is down to 0. So now when it comes into the system, this is going to send it straight into the crafters, as you can see right there, and it's going to get turned into those materials. Now you'll notice there's something extra here. I've gone and added Terra Steel and Mana Steel, which give us a couple more nice building blocks. And this one here might be competing to be used in the build that we're going to do next, which we'll move on to in just a second. I think that's everything. What material was that over there? That's another very similar thing. That might be from the same mod actually. But yes, I can't help but feel there was one more thing I was going to mention, but we're done here for now is what I'm saying. I don't remember what the other thing I was going to mention was, but I got distracted and came over here and found out we got a couple more Fool's bags to open. Probably going to find it again. We just get the same items over and over. And this thing, by the way, is absolutely filling up to the brim with items. And what we should probably do is void these bags of holding, because we've now, of course, gone and automatically sorted out all of the gems, right? So that can go in there. And then at some point, we're going to move some more materials out of here, though. The amount of stuff we're collecting is just ridiculous. Anyway, let's open these Fools bags. First of all, we have, yep, no surprise. Oh, actually, what's cool about that is we've only ever got one of those, and that seems to be the best thing that you can get. So now I can dual wield them, which is kind of crazy. And in here we get another Sunblade. So no surprises. I will continue to open those bags though. Welcome to the second half of this episode where we are going to be building something absolutely amazing. Just to get you a little bit hyped, okay? And if you watched the last episode where we worked on Astral Sorcery, I made a catastrophic error at the end of that. Okay, we have put the wrong altar onto this setup. So the idea is that when you've got the correct altar here, the larger altar or the one further up the tech tree, you'll be able to do the old recipes for these altars in them, right? It's backwards compatible. But in my mind, that got swapped around and I put the smaller altar on here, and that's why we get the red meter and that doesn't work. So we know where we're at with that. Basically, that altar needs to operate on, I think it's this one here. And we're actually going to include these smaller altars in the build that we're going to be doing here. Because it's going to look amazing. All right, let me just show you what's going on up here. We're gonna raise the building. It's going to go higher into the sky, and it's going to be even bigger than what you're looking at right here. We're going to have the biggest altar in the middle, and then we're going to have 4 other altars on all sides, and it's going to create a massive structure supported by massive structural beams at the bottom. It's going to look so cool, and it's going to be visible from all over the place because it's so massive, and I think it's actually going to work out really well. So what I've done down here is I've sort of created the shape of the main building. You can see it's like this big bulge that comes from the blueprint of that, if you like, and then it's going to have a support beam going down to the bottom below it. And so I built that shape first of all to get a sense of how big this beam is going to be, and we want it to be a lot bigger going down to what is essentially the lowest point below the structure. So that's why I've gone and raised this thing up by about 11 blocks up to this height here. Now this is also going to make use of a lot of bits as well, as we're not going to be able to use stairs in the exact same blocks or the correct places that we want to. So bits like this will be chiseled as well. I think there's going to be another row of that down here, and now what I need to do is get some more of that material. Also up the top here, these arcs that we've got going across, they are not done correctly because they too are going to be chiseled about, and we're going to put in some custom shapes and stuff. Although what I just built was a stair block. I can't remember exactly how this works. I think it was a slab like that, and then maybe have a shape like that as well there. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll figure it out as we go. So just kind of letting you know about the level of detail here. But again, massive thank you, Christopher Mills, if you're watching. I loved the build ever so much. Thank you for sharing it with me on Twitter. And now I'm just going to dive right in and start building this thing. And because I've finished recording a little bit of a clip explaining what exactly it is we're going to be doing, it means I can start to remove all of this stuff. So we're going to do all of this in quick updates, and I should probably remove that. Yeah, it's really weird how that's been on like the whole time I've been playing, and only now do I think to get rid of that coordinate. Yeah, so I went around the outside building the first bulge, and then I went, hang on a second, it's alright doing all of this, but it's got to go because we've got the other little temple, well, not temple, that's a temple, altar. Yeah, we've got the other altars to build on the other side, so we're getting the other 3 built into place just like this one, and then we'll go and build the second bulge below it. The sun is rising and I'm not happy right now. I'm also noticing this extra bar right here. It stays in the same place. I think that's the minimum requirement for the starlight that you need to make this, which winds me up because I just built this in 3 or 4 different places before going, okay, let's see if it works over here. And I actually had over half. I kind of assumed you needed all of it. Oh, whatever, I have to wait till the next night. And also, this is a test as well, because we have the correct altar design here, but it also has extra blocks within the square space. So this right here is part of the altar, but that on the corner is not. So it's good to know that that'll work there, as we've got one of the other altar designs over here, and it's got some blocks that are not technically needed to be there inside of the space, but that's all cool. And like I said, when I record again, I'll show you the second bulge, and there it is. This thing is looking so cool. It's got a long way to go though. There's going to be a lot of detail and like a balcony over on this side, and I don't think we'll get to build all of that today. What I'm going to focus on next is the support struts that are going to go down to the ground. So 2 of those support beams are in place, and you don't really get to see them from a lot of angles, especially if you're down on the ground because of the tree line tends to cover it all. So maybe what we'll do around the outside is trim back a few trees once we're done building this. I try to been leaving in as many as I can because they come up real close to the building, as you'll see right here. And over on this side it like goes right inside of it, as you can see around here. But yeah, try to leave as many of those in place as I can so we have our options after. And then from down here you can see the difference between the two is that it's chiseled in bits this side over here. So we've got a nice little detail going around the outside, and then it creates a floor over in this space, which gives us a ton of room to have loads of interiors done in here as well. So this project is going to be much bigger than just having a bunch of shrines on the top, right? We're going to be doing some interior stuff as well and decoration. It's going to end up being real superb, but as I said a moment ago, we ain't got time for everything today. What I want to do right now is get the last of these support struts in. That, my friends, is a comically oversized hat on top of slime. It almost looks like the slime itself has been In fact, has it? Is that the slime itself reskinned? I'm trying to look underneath it. It's not. I want that hat. I probably already have that hat. I need to find it in the menu. I found it! I think I'm going to leave this one on. If another player sees me, they might get startled. But the other support beams, support struts, I've called them lots of things in this episode. They're in place. We're going to fly around and look at those. I actually had to go back and edit the video because I credited the wrong person for this. I don't know what is wrong with me. I managed to make these catastrophic mistakes all the time, but I read the wrong name from the wrong thing that I bookmarked. Energy Crafter is the person who sent me an image album of this design, which we are kind of redoing block for block. There are a few tweaks and changes I'm going to make with the shape of this, which I've already done. And then when it comes to, finalizing this thing, we've still got a way to go, and I'm going to throw in a bunch of color. Like I mentioned those blocks earlier, right? Yeah, these ones. I plan on throwing some of this into the build at some point, but it's one of those things where you look at the image and you think, yeah, I can build that. I've got, loads of marble that I can farm, and it won't take long to build, but actually hours go by. There's so many blocks to place. There's chisel and bits, details to do. This is going to be like a project that we do over several episodes. I am such a dummy, I forgot my resonating wand. Let's get back over here. We should be able to click on this thing and craft now. I've built the smaller altar in the middle here, so finally we can get this thing charging up when it's night time, which it is now doing. This right here, this lens thing, will allow us to make star metal, which will then allow us to make the next altar size. So we're going to be doing a little bit more astral sorcery in the near future. But to end this episode, I think we're going to craft this thing and enjoy the effects here. If you've enjoyed this episode, though, leave a like as always. Thank you for your support. Assume a creeper thanks you. And let's take this item. Do we? There we go. We got it. We get 2 of them. Awesome. Yeah, that's the end of the episode, peeps. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.